Okay, so to pick up where we were, they were at Mount Sinai. They're preparing to hear, um, they're preparing to hear God as He comes down, and they're to meet God. And this is where they hear the Ten Commandments. This is where they um, refuse to go and meet God, and we'll talk about these things in classes. It's where, and you can see this. These are things taken from up in Mount Sinai, and they camp at least around the base, maybe partially up, and then there are groups of 70 that come up, and you can see there are various places where they might stop. They come up and meet with God, and Moses makes covenants with them, and then he goes further up and is with God for a long time. And after a while, Israel starts to wonder where he may be, and they make the golden calf, and God wants to destroy them, and Moses pleads for them, and so on and so on. Eventually, then, because God listens to Moses, he spares them. Moses wants to see God again, but because Moses is representing these people and they've just done something so bad, he can't see God's face. I think there's some great symbolism there. He's only allowed to partially see God because they've separated themselves from God more than they should have. That's in Exodus 33. The tabernacle is then set outside of the camp rather than being inside the camp, and they're then given the lower law. Moses has been with God for so long that his face shines, and they're given ritual and priestly functions and so on. And this Exodus tells us about this as well. I mean, Exodus and Leviticus. We'll talk about some of the things in Leviticus as we, well, I guess we have, as we've done the temple and so on. Then we get as we get to Numbers, and they are ready to leave. The Israelites complain again. Many of them are destroyed by fire, and Moses says it's hard to lead this people. They're always so difficult, and God has some mercy on both of them, Israel and Moses, and he gives them quail, and he causes many of them to prophesy. We get Aaron and Miriam and their rebellion, which we'll talk about in class, and then finally they're sent towards Kadesh Barnea. So let's see here, where is that map? Here we go. So finally, from Mount Sinai, they travel along here and all the way up to here. So this is a long journey, and we don't get much about it. Some of the rebellion and what we've been reading about probably happens along there, but it's not specific exactly where. So finally they get to Kadesh Barnea, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. This is the wilderness in Egypt as you approach Kadesh Barnea. So it's not really a lot different than the wilderness of Sin, except for you've left behind you now these huge granite red mountains. So they get into Kadesh Barnea, and spies are sent in to the land of Israel. So these 12 spies travel from here into Canaan and then go all around Canaan. So this is quite a long journey through not the nicest of territory. And then they go all around in Canaan. And this is where they get the report that it's a land full of milk and honey, and which is really representative of the fact milk means that it's good grazing land. And this is important to the Egyptians, or the Israelites. They have flocks and they raise cows from which you can get milk. And the idea of honey is that there are abundant wildflowers, and thus the bees are there. So it's just a way of saying that it's a fertile land. And you just get this idea, at least during the winter. And we'll talk later when we get to Deuteronomy about the difference between these things. But you get the idea as you see these pictures. Of course, the spies come back, and 10 of them say that's too difficult. We'll talk about this in class, but 10 of them say it's too difficult. 2 of them say it is difficult, but we can do it. And there's a huge difference between these 2 points of view, and the ramifications are important. And we will talk about that. But as a result of listening to the 10 faithless spies, Israel is told they can't go into the land of promise. They decide at this point they don't like the curse, so they decide they'll try anyway. And of course that doesn't work when they try and do it without God. And now they're going to have to wait 40 years.